Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Life. My name is Emmy Klein, and I am your host this evening. And today's episode is hopefully going to be a very informative one. I am very excited about it. It's been something I've been waiting to do, and you'll see why in just a minute. But today's class code, though, if you want to find all of the things that I'm going to be using, go to JerrysArtarama.com and type in today's class code, which is JL257. So 257, and it is down here on the corner of the screen, and it will remain up throughout the show in case you need to reference it. So today's show is all about swatching. I'm very excited because it is kind of the core of how you understand your art supplies. And that is universal across no matter what media you use. It is so important. So if this is something that you have not heard of or are unfamiliar with or aren't quite sure how to approach swatching in different media, make sure you check this out and share it with your friends, hit the like button, and of course show us that love. Much appreciated. So I wanted to go over all different types of media today, so we have a lot to cover, but you'll see it's kind of consistently very, very similar no matter what the media that we're using. So I wanted to start off today with oils, because that's a big one, right? Swatching oils, and these are my swatches for specifically the Studio Oils set of 12. So this is something that I've had on the show before, and you'll see I have swatches all throughout all of my shows because, again, you need to swatch your art supplies. But swatching in and of itself is a way to figure out A, how it's going to move on the surface that you're using, and B, kind of what the colors are. Because I can say it's a green, but what kind of a green is it? Is it this kind of green? Is it this kind of green? Or is it like a totally different kind of green? Like there's all different types of colors out there, and to understand kind of what you're getting out of the tube is important. So when it comes to the swatches that you see that I'm showing you like this, there's always a general formulation of how I built this. So you'll see the three stripes among all of the canvases. The first one, the very top, is my mass tone. That is straight out of the tube of oil. I do not mix it with anything. It is literally just paint to the little canvas. And then the middle one is what I like to call my glaze. Now that one is where I break it down a little bit either with linseed oil, just so I can get a glaze and see like a transparent kind of a layer of that paint. You can also break it down with like a solvent a little bit just to kind of water it down a little. But the oil is definitely more archival and will last longer. And then the bottom here is where I mix it 50-50 with titanium white. Now the reason why I mix it with titanium white and not any of the other ones is because titanium white is my go-to white. It is also very opaque, so it'll kind of tint it down and make it kind of almost that like chalkier white kind of a thing. So it's, for me, since I always use titanium white, it's useful. I know what my color is going to do. I know how chalky it's going to get. Now if I don't like it, I can always try it with maybe a zinc white, something like that. So you can adjust your swatches to suit your own personal studio needs. So if you don't use titanium white, go for that zinc white, you know, vary it up. Now, before I get too far and I forget, this is what I'm using for these swatches. These are a little 2" by 3" mini canvases. That's all they are. Little tiny, cute little stretched mini canvases. And what I usually do for all of these is put a stripe of solid black down the middle. Now I usually reach for my Turner acrylic wash. The reason why is because this does not re-wet. Also, I have found that a Sharpie sometimes can move on you. So I have used a Sharpie before, but depending on my media, Sharpie is not the best choice. So normally I just go with these, because then I just have a box of these with a black line down the middle prepped and ready to go. These are not, because there's a reason for that. Now, because I don't have to do this anymore. I'm very excited. Hint, hint. We'll get to that later though. But that is specifically when I show you my swatches on the shows. this is what you're looking at. Now, funny thing is that my acrylic ones look so similar. It's because they are. The acrylics are done in the exact same manner. So that's exactly what you're seeing here. The top is the mass tone. That's straight out of the bottle. I don't mix it with anything, not water, nothing. And I do a pretty decent layer. So that way I can see whether or not it's transparent. That's what that black line is for. Whether or not it's an opaque paint, whether or not it's a transparent one. Because like that yellow, I can see that black line straight through it. And that I know is going to be a very transparent color. Whereas like my white's a little bit more, you know, solid. Now, funny thing, now that I'm looking at this, I'm pretty sure I used Sharpie on this one. You know how I can tell? Oh, this also is extra and it Velcros off. The way that I can tell that this is Sharpie is because my white is slightly blue underneath that mass tone right there. This is why Sharpie is not great. That's why I normally now reach for these, because I don't want it to react like this. This, when I had first originally put it down, that blue tone kind of color shift was not there. So this I would probably have to redo if I were using these anymore. Again, hint, hint, there's something great coming. But funny thing is that I think that's the only one I used a Sharpie on, because I think the rest of them are fine. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because none of them are having that same reaction. So that must have just been an odd man out. But whoops. But that's something to kind of note. But the middle one still, though, is a glaze. Now that I actually use either water or a medium. I would prefer to reach for a medium, because a medium is going to keep that adhesion and make it archival, whereas water you can have, especially when you mix it like this thin, this is where I use the medium. If you use it this thin, you're going to have an issue with binding, and your pigment has a tendency to kind of flake off over time. Again, I'm trying to get it archival, so I would use a medium there. And then again, all of the bottom ones are where I mix it with white. Now, before I also forget, I'm going to show you how to actually do all of these before we get too far, but I just want to kind of touch base on a few things. Now, this one, which I'm going to actually have to take these down, this one is the Lucas gouache intro set of 12, because I had a gouache show. So this one is not done on canvas because it's gouache, which is a traditional gouache, which is a opaque watercolor. So this is exactly how I approached watercolors as well. So instead of being on a canvas, this is just on watercolor paper, and I have my notes on the back. So and also same thing for all of the little like little canvases. I have my notes just written in like a ballpoint pen on the back of the frame of the canvas. So I always make sure to put notes just in case for whatever reason things get mixed up. But with this one, you can see I have that black line, which I know is the Turner Acrylic Gouache, because I very much remember doing all of these. It took me a very long time. And then I actually cut them down into little 2x3 squares to match this, because I am that person. I hope you all appreciate that. But with this one's slightly different. I actually did use like little photo corner mounts, which is, again, me being extra. But, you know, I didn't want to have to redo these, so I wanted them to be archival and presentable forever. But with these, you can see it's slightly different than this, because you got a different variation. So for this, because this is gouache and that uses that opacity, I have it here is mixed with white. Here, this little darker stripe all throughout it is actually mixed with black, because that is something for my own art kind of practices. I use black in watercolor more often than I do in acrylics or oils. Now, granted, you can mix, have a shade line here too. So you can have your mass tone, your glaze, your tint, and a shade where you mix it with black instead, like a 50-50. You can add that too. But that's what you're seeing here. Now, the bottom part of it, because it is technically a watercolor, what I do is this is the mass tone at the top, and then I fade it out into a gradation where this is where I do very little pigment and more water, because I swatch this more like a watercolor than I would an acrylic paint. Again, I will show you how to do all of these as well. I just wanted to touch base on the 3 kind of bigger categories and show you how I used to swatch these, because these would take a long time to do. But I have a solution for anybody out there. And the reason why I haven't done a swatch show yet, because I am so excited, so excited. We have officially, if I can pull this out of here without moving all my things, this is a painter's color diary. I love this so much. This takes all of the prep work out of swatching. This is just an amazing, amazing tool. Now, this specifically was made for oils and acrylics. And when we came out with that, you guys were loud and so clear as to what you wanted, and we heard you. We definitely, and I mean, we were also already kind of on the same page. But I love that you guys were so passionate about this. So we have a watercolor one now too. So this is essentially for oils and acrylics, and this is for your water-based media. Now, granted, acrylics are water-based media, and you can use your acrylics in the watercolor diary as well. But oils really, this paper right here is sized to accept oils and not disintegrate, because oils and paper gets a little funny. But this is going to be archival, and it's going to be great. So I wanted to show you, let's go over to the overhead here, because I have a bunch of swatches with these. Let me get this kind of out of the way here. Sorry, I have a lot of swatches. I've had a lot of swatches all throughout the history of Jerry's Live. But these two, there is so much that you guys can do with these. And not gonna lie, the front page here is actually swatches that I did. I think this one, is it in this book? It might not be in this book specifically. It's in one of the other ones. But you can use these in the same way of what I just showed you, but you can also use them in so many different several other ways. Now that sheet I'm gonna skip here. Here's a really great idea for your tint studies. So this is Sharpen Acrylic. So we have the color right here is our mass tone, and then slowly progress with different amounts of white added to get to your tints, like a nice pastel shade. Now you could even continue this on along and get it even brighter and lighter than that, or you could do this with shades. That's also an option. If you wanted to, you can do all of your blues. Every blue, acrylic, oil, whatever it is that you have, you can absolutely just swatch them all. You can have a blue page, a red page, yellow page. It's sky's the limit. There's a lot of different options now. These have been floating around in the office, so I do apologize. I have several of them down here because there are several different ways that these have been used. Here we go. All right, so I had a painting, one of the Jerry's Lives that I did, with like a Florida swamp with a sunset. And this is where I was building my color palette for that painting. So I have my colors here, and then I was doing my tints. I was adding different colors together to figure out what mixes would do what. Adding cobalt to that yellow, to that cadmium yellow deep, which was a little bit more orange, adding mauve to them. That was me building the things that I needed specifically for that painting. So this is my swatch page just for that painting, And the really cool thing is in between them, we have these. This right here is glassine. So the really important thing about this is because acrylics get sticky sometimes. Have you ever had 2 acrylic paintings stuck together? It's because your acrylics just want to stick to everything, including your wall or your car or whatever it happens to be touching at the time. It loves to stick. It's a sticky thing. This right here will allow it to not. This is a protection sheet that even if it does slightly stick to the acrylics, it comes right off very easily. It will also keep it from being stuck to the previous page. And it's just one of those things that I love this so much. Now this is when I was doing the Turner acrylic wash. I have all of the different sets. So this was one set, this is a different set, this was another set. And then I did all of that and I was like, that is very confusing. Very confusing thing. So what I would have done is mixed all of these together on one sheet for all of my just normal colors, and then I would have done mixes. But what I actually ended up doing for you guys was this, because this is something that I still do to this day. Even though I do love me the Painter's Color Diary, I will still do these. So these are all of the other swatches this is a mixing guide. This is a swatch mixing guide. So you can see right here, these are all of the mass tones straight out of the tube, pure color. I have, well, this is the acrylic wash, so I did have to mix a little bit of water in because it's very, very concentrated. But then you can see right here, let me actually kind of narrow this down a little bit. These are my mixes. So like if I wanted to see what this blue mixed with, say, this yellow, I just kind of, right there, that's that color. So I now know what every color mixed together, what that's gonna do. Now the darker ones I actually did mix in a little titanium white, just so I could really, really see kind of what that's doing. We have a question?
Just one so far. I'm not sure if you addressed it or not because I was looking it up myself. I know that the watercolor one is cold pressed.
Yes.
What is the texture like on the oil acrylic?
Oh, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking, because I get so into like all of the different swatches that I forget to tell you these things. This is 290 with the GSM. What is that in pounds? Because it's very similar.
Roughly 145.
About 145 in the sheet. Because I like this right here. The Watercolor Diary is 140 pound cold press watercolor paper, and I want to say it feels a little, just barely thicker than this, but yeah, this is cold pressed watercolor paper, so it has that cold pressed texture. This is actually, ooh, let's go to that side camera, because you're probably gonna see that a little bit better. Let's see if we can get that nice view going. Okay, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, so let me, can you see that texture at all? I don't know if that's even, okay. So it has like almost like a canvas texture. I hope you can see that. Maybe if I tilt it funny. There you go. Okay, so you guys can kind of see that now. So that is, it's like a canvas texture. It's very similar to our canvas paper that we have, the Soho canvas pads. So it is actually paper, but it has that texture almost like your weave of your threads of your canvas. So it feels like that very like grid-like kind of texture, like the weave of a canvas would. It's really actually quite satisfying. So that's what that is. And then here, while we're at this view, let me just pop this over to an empty page so you guys can really see the texture of, there we go, that paper. This is the watercolor paper. Nice texture, which is great if you want to also see if like what your watercolors are going to do. We have a question?
So would you do this with every brand of paint that you use? And if you have the same color across several brands of paint, is it really necessary to swatch all three of them?
That is an amazing question. I love that question so much. Every single paint I get, I swatch. And that does not matter if I've already had a cadmium red in this brand or this brand or this brand, I will always swatch. The reason why is because manufacturers of paints can call a color whatever they want. And the pigment code is more important, but recently I've been dabbling in kind of pigment codes and their resourced materials, and when you say a PR 101, that can be several different colors because that is like an English red. It can also be Venetian red. There's just so many varieties, and that one code of the pigment can give you several different colors depending on how it's been processed. So no matter whether or not you've had that color name before, yes, always swatch it. Always, always, always.
Also notorious is like neutral tint.
Oh, yeah.
Where they just do what they want.
Neutral tint and like, what is that one?
Torrid gray.
Torrid gray, yeah. Torrid gray is like the prime example. Even within the company, there's a variation to it because every year it's just whatever it is that you get. Now, neutral tint can usually be a compromise with several different pigments to create kind of a neutral color when you balance out the yellow, blue, and red, kind of to create a neutral color. Now that is usually, you'll find all types of pigments in there. I've been recently swatching a lot of watercolors, and you'll see in a minute. And the reason why, and it's just, there's such a variety. Actually, I will show you one very, very soon where it's cobalt turquoise, and you'll see how different they are. And I honestly probably have the pigment codes on there too, just to kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about. So that is a great question. Always, always, always swatch your colors. Even if it's not wet media like oils, acrylics, or watercolors. You can do that with pastels. You can do it with colored pencils, all of it. Now, that's the other thing that I wanted to show you. I don't think I actually have any oils in these books right here. So I do have a couple extra pages that I'm going to be swatching for you guys. But when it comes to the watercolor diary, I wanted to show you a couple other reasons why you would want to swatch, right? So this right here are my color studies, because I had frogs. So, oh, and I just ripped out my glassine. Oh, by the way, everything is removable because of this amazing way that it is inserted into the book. You can remove them, and then you can pop them back in.
The glassine is not removable though, correct?
I believe the glassine is actually not removable anymore because this is, remember, I've been kind of testing these out, and so like I think this is probably a prototype. Not gonna lie. So the glassine is no longer removable, but this was one of our earlier versions of it where we had it removable, and now it just doesn't need to be. So ignore that. But these are my color studies for my frogs. So you can see all of my blue turned this blue frog into a very cold, wintry, sad frog. Sad frog time. And then all of these fun colors gave me a very fun tropical frog. And then these colors gave me sacrificial angry frog. I did not come up with that term.
He just looks so traumatized.
He looks so mad. like he's watching the bonfire. Let's say bonfire frog. But I did not come up with the sacrificial angry frog term. That was the team. Thank you, team. But then I also went a little bit more pastel, and I wanted to have something like that with just a single punchy kind of color with that red. Now this is just me playing with colors and me experimenting with a different feel to my artwork. It's the same exact artwork, but I'm just building color studies. Now it's all, I believe, Turner design gouache, so this was all gouache, which is why this is on a cold press paper. And then this being on cold press paper really gave me an understanding of what it's going to do, which is great. Now, what else do I have in here? Is it this one? No, I think that was it for this one, because I was trying not to do too many in the prototype. Here we go. All right, this is actually the front cover. So you can see this is the front cover to the guide. So this was actually, I believe, the original prototype. Wow. You can tell I've been using these for a minute. I've been dying to have this show. I'm so excited. So this is all watercolor, and you can see the way that I've been swatching them is the same way that I did those other ones. So I have my mass tone is really heavy from my actual color on this side, and then I gradiate it out with a wash. Now this is the same thing with my design gouache. You can see these are the colors, then this is my purple, I have my burnt sienna over here, and I do a mix in between, and then I've lifted it kind of right in the middle just to see the variation in color. Over here is where I have two colors here, and then I did a wash down here, and I did the same thing for these. This right here is just a wash where I did the mix on my palette, and then I put it over here, and then I did that gradation. These are all watercolor pencils. So you can see I have the gradation really heavy is where I applied the pencil on this side, and then I kind of feathered it out as I went along. And then this part is dry, this part is wet, and you can see the difference between them. Over here you can see I have the two colors of what I was mixing in here. And then I have right here is dry and right here is wet, and I did the same thing for these two as well. But then again, down here are my water soluble oil pastels, so mass tone, kind of feathering it out and then adding water on one side and keeping it dry on the other. And then these are just actual pastels, like these are just regular soft pastels. I'm very excited. So it works so well for so many different types of things. Yeah, these are these are palettes, different brands that you might have. Here are all of the Artograph. Let's see. This, I believe, is Amanda. This looks like your handwriting. So I'm pretty sure these are all watercolor pencils. So you can see.
Cezanne.
Yeah, Cezanne watercolor pencils. So is this the pack of 24?
How many are on there?
Just like it.
7 times 8, yep. That's
Sorry,
so
I
good.
don't remember. It was,
I was
so
like,
long ago.
counting really fast. No, so I mean, there's all types of different things that you can do with these, but we're gonna actually use a couple. Yeah, this is the Turner Design Gouache set of 12, and that is white. In case you were, that's only 11. And then these are some mixes down here. So this is a full set, and then you have all the space to test out different mixes and see not only how it's gonna flow, how they mix, and what you can do with your colors. And that's why this is such a important thing to do as an artist. Yes.
Which one of these two swatch books would you recommend for pastels?
I knew we were gonna start getting those questions, and I love it. All right, so dry media is one of those things where you can use either of them. The only time I would suggest using specifically the Painter's Color Diary, not for watercolors, the original for oils, is when you're using colored pencils and you like to blend out with oil. That's where I would very much recommend you do that. But you can use either of them for any dry media. So if you like to use your pastels on cold pressed watercolor paper, use this. This is great. This is going to tell you exactly what it's going to do.
And that one is the watercolor version of the Painter's Diary.
Yes. So we have a watercolor version, and then we have the original oil and acrylic version. So let's get to swatching a couple of things so you can really see how they change from one to the other. So let me get, oh, my oils are over here. I pre-squeezed them out, so I didn't want to stick them underneath my table. So I have two colors off on my paper, or on my my palette right now. I have a Payne's Gray and a green shade. This right here is a hand-painted swatch, which I do love, but the thing about these colors is that they're so dark. How can you tell what they're gonna do, right? This is why swatching is so important. So let me make sure I have the right diary. Yep, this is my original Painter's Color Diary because we are working in oils, right? So I have palette knife, and I'm going to be using our Chelsea Classical Studio linseed oil. This little this is 1 ounce? 1 ounce bottle? 1 ounce or 2? I think this is 1 ounce. Yeah, 1 ounce bottle is a little sample bottle that you can get, which is really, really awesome. And it's an extra pale, really nice oil. So straight out of the tube, these are both really dark, right? So I'm going to take this and I'm going to, hopefully you guys can see that, yep.
And the process for swatching oils is the same as it is for swatching acrylics, correct?
I'm going to do both so you guys can see them. But yes, pretty much. As the main difference is that instead of using a linseed oil for acrylics, you're going to be using either a glazing medium or a like water. Which the really cool thing about acrylics and water is that when you're using an absorbent substrate like paper, you can mix it with as much water as you want. So you don't have to use your glazing medium in your swatch diary, but it is good to actually use that if that's something that's normal to your everyday kind of painting techniques. Again, this is all stuff that you can take and build in your studio to suit your specific needs. If you use glazing medium, use it to swatch as well, because then it's really going to show you what it's going to do. Because if for whatever reason a paint has a very odd reaction and decides to just separate, like the pigments separate for whatever reason, when you mix it in with a certain thing, that's something you're going to want to know before you commit it to a full piece, right? So, I'm going to need, where's my, I have easy wiper rag. All right, so I'm going to do these at the same time, right? Because as you can see, they are both really dark, right? I haven't even told you which pile is what. I'm sure you can probably get a slight hint of which one is more green and which one's more blue. But it is so hard to see, right? So, let me mix in a little bit of that linseed oil. The really cool thing is, you know how I had to draw that line on my canvas? There, oh, here's one. So I had to draw that line on my canvas, right? Because it's just a canvas. Well, these are already done. I don't have to draw that line for opacity. I can just full on just put it on there and don't have to grid it out. It's already perfectly square for all of my friends out there like me who have slight OCD when it comes to making swatches very pretty.
Amy, which one would you prefer for alcohol ink markers?
Ooh, that's a good question. Alcohol ink markers I feel like would be better on the watercolor diary, but they absorb so fast. I would say that would be something that I would probably still, well, it depends, again, it depends on how you use it. So if you use it on canvas, like that would be my question, is like, how exactly are you using your alcohol markers? Are you using it on marker paper? Because if you're using it on marker paper, I would probably stick with marker paper, just because that is going to act very different than either of these. But maybe I can convince the next watercolor diary to come out is for markers. All right, so as you just saw, as soon as I start adding in that oil and giving my glaze layer, you can really start to see the color, not just the darkness, but the color come out. So this Payne's Gray has a nice like blue tone to it that you would never know with that dark, you know, kind of paint. And then that that green shade, of course, as you can see, it's literally green, but it's just a really lovely desaturated green. It's not a punchy green. It's not lime green, because, you know, when you say green, it can mean so many different things. Now I'm going to actually mix it in with some titanium white. Again, I'm trying to just eyeball it 50-50. Whether or not I get it perfectly 50-50, probably not. That's okay. Now, if somebody really, really, really wants to do that, you would probably measure it by volume. All right, so actually, let me get that glassine out of here. All right. Now that I mixed in the titanium white, I have the loveliest moody green that is so opaque because you can see in my glaze layer, you can see that line shine through in that one where I mix it with the titanium white. It is obliterated. So that I know when I mix that in with the titanium white, it's still going to be very, very opaque, right? I'm also just using that linseed oil to kind of rinse off my brush, so excuse me. Probably should have had more than one brush on hand. Did not think about that. My bad. All right, so again, eyeballing it 50-50-ish. Might have added a little bit more titanium white. That's okay. It's just to give me an idea, you know? Oh, look at that pretty color.
Stan says that they want some shoes that color. Of
Which,
that
the
first
green?
titanium mix.
I want some shoes that color. If you find them, let me know. All right, so this is that Payne's Gray and titanium white. Same thing. It's just got that lovely, like, desaturated blue. It's still not a punch you in the face kind of blue, like boom, like ultramarine or cobalt blue, but it's got that blue kind of tone. And so this would be something that I lean towards when it comes to starting a grisaille painting. This is still more on the neutral side for me. And actually I have started a grisaille painting with it. And this is actually where, again, the old swatches. I did this on canvas pad. This was universal primed. These are all oils. I did this up here is where I took the mass tone and I mixed it with solvent. And then this is my shades of various tints from the mass tone, which is what since they are all so dark, I use those as my black and then all the way down to white. And you can see the differences between ivory black, Payne's Gray, and this is that blue black. And the reason why I did this is because I was trying to figure out which one I was going to use for a grisaille painting. I ended up going with Payne's Gray because I thought that that was just so perfect for what I was trying to do. This was a little too blue, this was a little too neutral. I wanted that sort of blue-black kind of look, but not this much. So this is where swatching your colors is very important. Now this is just a canvas pad because they are relatively inexpensive and I can just file this away on my shelf if I need to. That's just something that's like, this is why swatching is so important. Now again, this is something that if I were to, on a regular basis, use black in my paintings, I would do a shade where I'd do the same 50-50 mixture, but I'd use that paint straight out of the tube, and then I'd use a black, like Mars black or lamp black, depending on what black you normally use. You can also swatch out to see which black is perfect for you. But that's where swatching really makes a huge difference because you really understand what the color is going to do. I also now know the texture of that paint. I know how it feels when it goes down. I know how it brushes on. Now, the reason why we made sure that these pages could come out is because when you have oil paints, it's going to take a while to dry, right? So I'm going to take this and go put this on my drying shelf over there, right? While I do acrylics now. So acrylics, different brush, just like the oils. Let me get this glassine around the back. Is the exact same way. So let me move these down. I have a lot of stuff under here. Now I'm going to be using a heavy body acrylic. Heavy body acrylics, I should say. Oh, the other reason why I have also, I have so many swatches, guys. I was trying to find the perfect pink. These are all the Lucas reds and like kind of magenta colors. So again, it's one of those things that like, this is why swatching is important because I was trying to find that perfect pink for a banana painting. This is why I swatched all of these colors, is to find that pink color. And it is perfect for that yellow banana that I painted. But let's see, acrylics, right? So again, I have a green gold straight out of the tube. It's got a lovely kind of olivey green kind of color to it. Now this one, also just realized I don't have water on my table. Christina, please help. Sorry, she's gonna go grab that. I just realized that for the watercolor version it's gonna be a little difficult, but I'll do this while we're doing this. All right, so I have straight out of the tube, because this is the Soho Heavy Body, right? So if I lay that down, a nice layer, it has completely obliterated that line. This is an opaque, very thick paint. If I let this dry, it is going to retain those brush strokes. And so I'm really gonna understand what my paint is gonna do when it's dry. For acrylics, this is really, really important because acrylics tend to have a color shift. Yes.
What color is this again?
This is the Soho Green Gold. It's a heavy body acrylic, but acrylics, because of that acrylic polymer that's mixed in as the binder, it tends to be milky white kind of when it's wet, and then it dries clear. So that's why you have that color shift. So this right here is going to dry slightly lighter, or darker, sorry, slightly darker. It's one of those things where my brain is like, no, that's not it. Oh, hey, fun fact, it happens to match almost perfectly. All right, so I'm using the Liquitex glazing medium. Again, the brand of acrylics that I'm using and the type of glazing medium I'm using, thank you so much, you're a lifesaver. Not that important. Now, if you use matte medium as your medium, use that. If you use water because you're using an absorbent ground, like a paper or a watercolor paper to do your acrylics, like paint your acrylics on, you can use water. Like, that's not a problem at all. But I'm going to be using this glazing medium because little goes a long way. When I start knocking it down for that kind of glazed layer, it starts getting this like really fun kind of yellow undertones that is really hard to see in the mass tone, which, I mean, you can tell it's not like a phthalo green. Let me get a little bit more on here. You can really see that undertone now. You absolutely understand that it's gonna lean towards that color. Now, that's not like a bright cadmium yellow, like that's gonna be a perfect olive green. If you're painting olives, like this is great, you know? Then I'm going to take that and I'm gonna also mix it in with a little bit of my titanium white. Same brand, so I can kind of keep it within the same family. Again, no matter what, swatch your colors. Again, I'm going to attempt to go for about 50-50. I don't need a whole lot for this purpose, but... Now, do we have any questions on swatching so far? I hope we don't.
Will you be demonstrating soft pastels today?
I will. Thank you for asking. All right, so now with that titanium white mixed in, I can see just how beautiful that color is. Now, it's just so different from this undertones, but like you can see it kind of coming through, but I can now understand and have a fully understanding of what this color is gonna do. Now, if I'm curious as to what that looks like mixed in with magenta, I can swatch that as well. I can start swatching these in, whether or not I'm doing a mixing sheet like this, or if I just continue to swatch it with all of my colors, you know? This is where understanding your colors is so important. But that is exactly how I would swatch my acrylics. Again, if you use black in your painting, you can swatch it with like a shade over here and mix it with some black. But this is how you can absolutely do this. So, now that that's done, I'm going to shove that over here so I don't stick it on top of my oil paints. Because watercolors is slightly different, like I was saying earlier. Get my glassine out of the way. All right. Where's my watercolor diary? Haha, found it. All right, so watercolors. The way I'm looking for watercolors to swatch is, and I don't need this because that's my acrylic brush, watercolor brush. I have a brush for everything. All right, so when it comes to swatching watercolors, I was showing you how to like really fully get them swatched out, or the reasons why you'd want to use them, like building your palette or having all your brand new sets of colors and figuring out what they're going to do. The other reason why I swatch out my watercolors is because something I've been doing recently is building a custom palette. So I have, like a crazy person, swatched out absolutely every single one of my watercolors and gouache, and I honestly, like, this right here is only a small portion of what I've swatched out. It's gotten crazy. And then I took, because I swatched them all onto the watercolor diary, I cut them out and I made sure to notate down here, like, this is my Lucas brand, it's opaque white, and those are my pigment codes, right? All different types of brands. And then I built my custom palette. Oh, that's backwards. They're all laughing because I've been obsessed with this for weeks, right? This is a 48 tin.
Let it be known I am not laughing at you because that is my all the time thing.
How many hours did we spend
Listen,
putting
Frida,
together
helping me.
swatches? And how long did it take you to completely throw that out the window?
Yeah, so Frida and I sat down for, I can't even tell you how many hours. It was probably like 5. And I had already swatched them all. I was just trying to figure out which ones of which brands I was trying to take with me, because I can only fit 52 colors in here because I'm going to a residency in France. I can't get my paints in France. Well, I mean, I can get paint in France, but like I can't just go get my tube out of the back of my studio. Like, I have to just take what I can, and I wanted it to be condensed into what I absolutely needed. So I swatched everything and I cut them out and I moved them around, and then I decided that was my palette, and then I decided that it's not good enough and that I needed more fun colors like the Turner Design Gouache Luminous Red, because of course I needed a fluorescent red. Why not? It's that one. I love it so much. But this is another way of using your watercolor diary. Now, what's great is that then, and this is where I always make sure to do this. I always have a travel swatch with me. This is in the order of what I have in my palette. So I have officially committed. I'm not changing this now. Now you can also see it's quite shiny. The reason why is because I went a little extra. And I have a piece of Duralar cut to size to just flip over, and it has all the colors written down for my custom watercolor palette. And that's just ridiculous. I regret nothing. But this right here, as you can see, was my scrap piece of paper, but this is a piece of watercolor paper. This is the watercolor paper I'm taking with me. So I wanted to see exactly how my paints are going to reactivate and go onto my paper. And I have that line drawn as well. But this is just a scrap piece of watercolor paper that I have gridded out, cut to size, and it just fits right into the top of my palette. I also have done this so many times that I now know, always cut yourself a little corner out so you can get it out. But this is my travel palette, and I would not have been able to actually get this done in the hours that it has taken me to decide all of the colors without having these done first, which is just ridiculous. Now, I'm probably going to take, oh, there's another one stuck in there. I'm probably going to take these and hang in my own personal studio. I'm going to hang all of my tubes of paint on the wall because I am that person, and I'm just going to have my swatch right next to them because that's just gonna be gorgeous, and I want that in my studio life all of the time. So this is another reason why swatching is important, but I'm gonna actually show you how I did swatch these watercolors once I pick up all of my swatches. Excuse me. Now, do we have any questions so far? Yes. Like
yes.
this right here, this really, sorry, bright one right here is a mix. I wanted that color and I couldn't find it, so I made it. Anywho, sorry, question?
Pamela asks, she's new to using water-soluble oils. If she wanted to get the progression of values, would she just continue to add linseed oil?
Yes, but as long as you, again, it's when you mix in an oil to water-soluble oils, you want to make sure that it is a water-soluble oil that you're mixing in. Otherwise, you're removing that water solubility. I hope that makes sense. I have an entire show on water-soluble oils. Watch that. But yes, you would just mix in a progression. And that's one of those things is like, use it in the same sense of how you paint. So if you use glazes, do a varying amount of glaze. Like this is pure paint. This is a little bit of linseed oil with the paint. This is a little bit more. And that's all those things that are just gonna help you understand what your paints are gonna do for you. Now, if you wanted to, you could glaze it, leave it to dry for, you know, a while. And if you do a really thin glaze with the oils, it should dry in a little bit faster kind of manner. And then you can also do another glaze on top to see kind of how they optically mix. That's one of those things where you can start doing your swatches that way if that's how you paint. If you paint in glaze layers, that's something that's going to be more important to you as opposed to like if you're alla prima and you do it all in one go. All right, so let's do a quick swatch. With watercolors, again, that line is so important so you can understand whether or not it's a transparent color, whether or not it's opaque. But you can swatch them in various ways. I usually like to lay down a little bit of water, just pure water, just to sort of get it kind of started, you know? And then, which color do we do? Oh, this is the other part of whoever was asking, does it matter if you already have a cobalt turquoise? Do you need to swatch cobalt turquoise again? I have 2 cobalt turquoises in here, and they're so different. So we're gonna do both.
Maybe if you move the water bucket, I can go to the side.
Yes, let's do that. Here, I'll put it up here. All right, so this is cobalt turquoise, and it is beautiful. And of course, me being me, I had to have 2 cobalt turquoise. I believe this right here is Winsor & Newton. Let me actually scooch this up a little bit so you guys can really see it, right? Now, the reason why I wanted that layer of water down is to just kind of get it moving a little bit, because I like to have it, I usually lift with my brush and then I kind of feather it back up just to get that nice gradation. But I'm lifting up a lot of that water to where it doesn't continue to run down, because I want to see, this is kind of my mass tone, and then it starts getting lighter so I can see what those colors are gonna do, right? Now, let's swatch cobalt turquoise. That's cobalt turquoise, and that's cobalt turquoise. Isn't that ridiculous? And I also did not lay down the water first, so it didn't start running down a little bit, which is okay. I can kind of get water down there and then bring it up to meet it, kind of a thing. I'm trying not to overbrush it because I don't want to scrub my paper, but these are both cobalt turquoise. That's what they're called, cobalt turquoise. Actually, let me just double check these. Where are my swatches? Where did I put those? Here we go. That is Lucas cobalt turquoise, and this is Winsor & Newton cobalt turquoise. That's what they are. All right, so that's them wet. This is them dry. there's not that much of a color shift when it comes to that, which is great. They're both not super opaque. They're slightly opaque, but this one has PB28 in it, and this one has PB28 and PB36. So that's why there's such a difference in those two colors alone, and they're both cobalt turquoise. This is why swatching is important, because anybody can call it whatever they want. I could call this sea blue if I wanted to, and I was making the paint. Yes, we have a question?
Yes. There's so much.
Sorry.
So when you travel, this is kind of a side question, but are you squeezing your tube into those pans?
Yes.
And
Well,
you're taking
yes and
pans
no, I
instead
should
of
say.
tubes for what reason?
Okay, so I should explain that. Some of these I've panned. Some of them came panned. All right, I am using, and this is something that I just decided to do in this endeavor of me going to France, because Jerry's is sponsoring me because I am their artist and I'm going to be doing video, so make sure you subscribe to our channel in case I go live from France. I'm actually really trying to do a plein air painting session while I'm over there for a sunset. I think the time zone difference is that I can do a sunset and do plein air painting with you guys, so make sure you subscribe, hit that bell. But I decided in going there, I didn't want to just get whatever paints that I could possibly get just because, you know, at that point, I'm going to be overwhelmed by choice. I have the ability to choose whatever I want. It's a very hard life to live. I know everyone's probably being like, that girl, ugh. But I just decided that I wanted to start off with whatever I had on hand. And what I had on hand was the complete set of Lucas. And they were all in pans. So like this right here was already panned. I know that because it's nice and clean. This one, these two, however, were not panned, and I panned them myself because A, they're in a totally different kind of pan that I could just find around my studio, and B, they are so full, I overfilled them because I was like, I love these colors and I want as much as possible. I mean, I'm going to be there for a month, so I wanted all the paints. I also panned some gouache. That's why you're seeing those cracks. Those are actually gouache. Now, is the crack going to stop me from being able to use it? No, it's still going to work just like it should and re-wet because it's a traditional gouache, not an acrylic gouache. Please make sure to note that. There's an entire gouache show. Watch it. There's a very big difference between those. Now, the reason why I panned them and let them dry is because A, I wanted to make sure that they will reactivate the way that they need to before I leave. So I panned well, actually I should say, before I panned these, I actually turned this entire thing into a dot card, which also, fun fact, a way to use your watercolor diary is just turn it into a dot card, throw it into your backpack, the glassine will protect it, and then you have travel watercolors. But that's not enough color for me being in France for a month, so that's one of those things that I'm gonna have to, I had to have pans. So I turned this into a dot card, and then I let them dry for like 3 days. And then I reactivated them. I wanted to make sure that they were going to reactivate before I panned them. That is a huge thing. And then I made sure to pan the ones that I really, really wanted, and I set all of my colors on my swatches before I officially pan them. I didn't want to waste my colors, but the reason why is because it's very difficult to travel with wet paint. They get so weird about wet paint in an airplane, and this is coming with me on the plane. Yes.
Also, speaking of dot card,
Yes.
while supplies last, I think that we're sending out a Daniel Smith dot card with watercolor diary purchases. I just saw on the website.
So if you purchase yeah, Frida's officially gonna go buy one now. If you purchase a dot card, a dot card. If you purchase a watercolor diary right now, you get a free dot card.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Limit one per order.
One per order.
While supplies last.
While supplies last. So everyone go get them now. Yes, we have a question.
Can you quickly explain real quick what the mass tone is when you're laying that down?
Yes. So mass tone in no matter what media that you're using, and actually while I'm doing this, because I know we're going to be running out of time, I'm going to actually do this with pastels because I knew that was a question that you guys wanted to show. Mass tone is straight out of the tube without anything mixing in, without anything kind of being added to it. It is just the pure color in its full form. So if it's straight out of the tube and it's transparent, you're gonna see it. This is a semi-hard pastel, and I have some softer pastels as well, right? Yes, I do. Same thing. I'm going to do a mass tone of the pastel. Let me squeeze. And then I'm gonna kind of feather it out. So I'm gonna actually just take my finger and start smudging this. Right? Something like that. So mass tone straight out of, well, this isn't really a tube of paint, but you know, same kind of idea. This is what I would consider the mass tone. It is the solid color as it is. Now, if I decide that I wanted to see how my pastels work with water, because pastels are water soluble, perhaps I do that. Now, this is not what I would consider mass tone. This would be a mix kind of a thing. But now I can see what that would look like. Right? And it's the same way with my pastels. It's the same way that I swatch my watercolors. I usually have like a really heavy section, and then I kind of feather it out all the way down. Now, if you wanted to, you could fill it absolutely all the way in, and then you could do layers over here with that color with white. You can do that with, if you decided that you wanted to mix it with something else, like absolutely. Yes, we have a question?
You two could not help but notice that you're using your finger to smudge it out. Will the oils not cause any issues long term?
The oils in my hand is not going to cause, honestly, like I'm touching it. Like it's, if this were to cause it to have problems, this paper is not worth your time. Watercolor paper shouldn't be that bad when it comes to like you touching it. Like you should be fine. I don't have that much oil. Now what I'm saying like with oils, as far as putting that onto paper and keeping it archival, I'm talking about adding like pure linseed oil. Like you can see when I added the linseed oil here, like that's a lot more than what I have on my hand, clearly. So that's what I'm talking about. This much is going to be a problem. Now, I have extra soft pastels in Sennelier because I happen to have sets that I have just had around. I have, this is the Stormy Sky, I have Pale Skin Tones, and then I have, I can never say this word. I know it's autumn. Autumnal. There we go. I can never say that, it's terrible. So these are really fun. They are 6 little half pastels that come in the sets because they're little like sample ones. And they are curated sets for the different colors. Now, anytime I get this, I would swatch them, right? So what I'm gonna do is swatch 1 per square. Because I'm also not sure if I want to do pastels when I go, because I'm like, I want to bring all my art supplies. How do I leave all my art supplies behind, guys? But this is so soft. Like being able to feel your art supplies and understand how they're gonna work is so important, and the only way you're really gonna be able to do that is to just play with them. This is an easy way to play with them that will become a reference that you can then understand on what they're gonna do. Wow, my pinky is really not getting clean there. That's all right. This is such a moody set. I love it.
Can you tell us the brands on those 2 cobalt turquoises again?
One was Lucas, and the other one was Winsor Newton. Right. So, now the other really awesome thing about this color diary, both of them, is that you can see that they have those lines underneath each little section. So if I need to label what these are, if I need to write down pigment codes, if I need to say notes of don't buy this again because it's terrible, or whatever I need to do to notate, I have plenty of space to do so. Oh, this blue, oh, that's gorgeous. So now I have my entire set swatched and ready to go. And the question is, do I need to bring it with me? But I can do that for every little set that I have, right? And then I can even then take that and then do some mixtures. Let me actually do a couple down below before I officially put it up. So let me do this color. And let's try this one. See what they do. So it's that one and this one, so it's just slightly in between, but it's beautiful. Right? Absolutely gorgeous. But now I know I can make a notation right underneath it of what colors I used. Do we have any more things that I need to swatch? I have so many things underneath my table right now. I think that's it though. So do we have any other questions real fast while I'm packing up? But while I know those are coming in, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys always watch your stuff. Always, always. Yes.
There have been several requests for your palette list. Could we maybe post that to the live group?
Absolutely. I literally last week finally came to the conclusion of what is in my palette, and this is the one that I got extra and gilded for obviously important purposes because I needed to have a gilded palette. Yes, I will absolutely post all of the swatches and the colors that I'm using in my palette for when I go. That way you guys can check it out. I will put that to the Facebook group, which is Jerry's Live Facebook group. It is free for you guys to join. Make sure if you do join, though, you answer that one security question because otherwise you're deemed a robot and I can't let you in. Sorry. Yes.
Did you mention the hashtag
Hashtag.
for the Painter's Color Diaries?
I didn't. What is the hashtag again?
Hashtag Painter's Color Diary.
I love it. So simple. If you guys do use your color diary, make sure you do the hashtag Painter's Color Diary. All hashtaggy. That way we can see what you guys are swatching. I'm so excited. But of course, if you do have any other questions about how to swatch things and what you're kind of looking for, feel free to pop it in the chat. Even if I don't get to your questions, while I'm live, I will always go back and check and make sure that everything's answered. But that was the Swatch Show. I hope you guys learned lots, and I hope I have gotten you guys just hopefully in the habit of swatching, especially when there is a tool that makes it so easy. You don't have to do all of this and be extra and have everything nice and neatly organized and swatched. You also don't have to do, oops, sorry, that was loud. You also don't have to do this and just have random 27,000 of these hanging around your studio all over the place and swatching I have so many swatches, guys. So many swatches. But now I'm very excited I can keep them all nice and neatly contained. It's gonna be great. So organized. Wonderful. But that was it, guys. I hope you guys appreciate it and get to swatching. But make sure you check me out next week. We are going to have a vendor on, so it's going to be a guest artist show. I'm very excited. It's Greg Watson, but when I do have guests on, that means that it's going to be Facebook only, not on YouTube. But we do upload it within 24 hours to YouTube to rewatch as well. But Greg Watson is going to be on. He is the specialist at Golden Artist Supplies, but we're going to be talking about Williamsburg oils, which is going to be amazing, and value painting, which means gray tones and neutrals, which is really, really important as an artist, kind of the tools that we need to kind of pay attention to. And also, before I forget, I'm also going to be live this Thursday. We have open studio hour. It is between 3 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Starts at 3 p.m. I'm just going to be doing, it's not a kind of a organized class like this. It is kind of me doing my everyday job, and you can ask me anything. So any questions that you had that are not topic related, jump over there and ask me that day. So I will see you guys then. Last minute, anything? We're good? Yeah? Love you guys. Appreciate it. Bye!